tradition this day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page. And love and tradition of the grand design, some people say it's even harder to find.
All right, hey, let's go. All right, so we are back at it, all things real estate, until we come up with a better name for the podcast.
There you go.
And first podcast after our live studio audience at Double D's.
That's right. Yeah, I think we should have like a, we're doing our casino night next Friday night, right? Appreciation, our client appreciation.
Yeah.
Next Friday, 22nd. Why don't we have a board up there where people can like make their suggestions for what our podcast can be named?
Yeah.
As well as topics that they would like to hear.
There you
Right?
Great idea, Jeet.
There you go.
Perfect.
They'll get an extra raffle
right.
ticket if they do that.
There you go. Right.
Sounds
Vote
good.
on
So, shout out if you are a client and haven't RSVP'd yet. Casino night's coming up soon. It's always a sellout event. Always a good time. Aaron says you have how many people coming?
46.
46 so far.
Awesome. 46 out of the whole
100.
Yep. So Aaron's clients are representing, and I know ours will be too. I'm going to jump into market stats real quick. A couple interesting things. Year over year. So August of last year versus August of this year, inventory was actually up 8%. So, not a huge, right? But definitely.
But how does that break down in numbers? So if we were at 500, that means it's up to 35?
Yeah.
Is that what 8% is basically?
So it's not a ton.
I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah, right.
But we'll take whatever we can get. We're starting to see that seasonal slow down a little bit, where inventories come up a little. So right now we're at 694 single family homes, but only 568 pendings. Wow. And so I've always told my buyers June and October are the two best months to buy.
I agree.
And it's, here we are, middle of September now, getting ready to get in October, and I think that's going to be true.
I'm really trying to see a slowdown. It's not slowing down, I feel like, where I have clients. Fremont, Milpitas, Union City, Almaden.
I mean, it's still multiple offers just about everywhere you go. But I do think that there will be slightly better opportunities for buyers in the next month or so.
So I think the biggest misconception is that buyers believe that buying during the summer is the best time to buy.
Oh, we've talked about that before. Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's just debunk it.
100%.
That has to be the worst time to buy.
Not in our area.
Yeah, it's just a madhouse.
Well, I mean, you know where that came from, right? It came from because that's when kids are out of school, families are moving, because during other times they don't want to pull their kids out of school to make a move, right? So that's why Real Estate 101 has always said, if you look at the whole nation, that's the time to buy and sell. And I would argue that I think for middle America, that's probably the case, potentially. But in our area, we're affluent. Everybody, as soon as schools get out, they go on vacation.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is we don't slow down in the winter like a lot of the rest of the United States.
We're not seasonal in that regard.
We're not seasonal. We don't get 2 feet of snow or tornadoes.
Great point.
Or,
Great point.
So for us, it's just kind of rolling year round.
Yeah.
So
Sunny California.
I have something.
Okay.
Before I forget.
Did you get a prescription for it?
Ozempic is coming. Don't look at my midsection when you laugh, Mark.
Go ahead, buddy. What do you got?
So, we were accused of devaluing a property. We spoke about it.
We spoke about it on our podcast.
That property's now closed.
I think a drink went flying when we were talking about it.
Yes, that property's closed. But one of the issues is that there was not enough context behind you, David, kind of going like this. Ugh. And the reason that you went is because you had buyers that specifically wanted Leland High School.
Correct.
And still currently do. In case anyone is a real estate agent watching this, we need we need a house for these clients.
Yep.
You said, ugh. And interesting enough, since that time of you doing that and us getting in trouble for talking about properties, blah, 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 new school rankings have come out. So for a very long period of time, Leland has held a super high premium for values.
Yes.
And schools destined for that. Mark, do you know Leland's new 1 to 10 ranking for school?
It's a 7, isn't it?
6. Do you know Pioneers?
8.
9.
9. Wow.
Do you know Branham's?
Only one off.
9. Lee?
Branham is a 9?
Is now below Branham.
Wow.
So
my wife graduated from Branham, so I'm not dissing on it. But
I went to Branham.
I mean, there
Shout
you
out
go.
Branham.
Does it still have the barbed wire around the fence? And
Mark. That's my school now. My point of saying that is that you should really look into the ratings further.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of them are getting beat down for not having more affordable housing zoning part of the schools. They're not what's the word when you don't have enough
Equality? What?
Yeah, like there's
Diversity.
like, equity, not enough diversity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're getting beat down for very weird things that have nothing to do with the
So,
actual
so, so wait. So I understand when they come up with the calculation for the school ranking, it includes things
yeah,
like that.
dive into what they're actually
well,
ranking.
I was just going to mention that, right? I mean, don't just go off of a rating, right? Figure out what's made up of those ratings. And, I'll say this. Like, for instance, when I know in the day when you had Saratoga and Los Gatos, right? If you had a kid, Los Gatos was they're both very good schools, right? But Los Gatos is more athletic driven and that type of scenarios, where Saratoga is more of the arts and academic sciences and so forth, right? So know where those ratings are coming from, and then realize every kid learns differently.
Yeah.
Find a school that fits your kids. I mean, that 7 might be the best school for your kid rather than a 9 or 10. I know a lot of people that are in some of these higher rated schools and their kids come home crying all the time because the bar in the school is so high. They just they're not academically inclined to meet that.
Yeah,
right?
and one of the things that I've found that really makes a good school is the amount of parental involvement.
100%.
So you got to talk to people.
100%.
You got to talk to parents of children, that go to that school, because what do the PTA meetings look like? What what type of parent helpers do you have in the classrooms, especially with your elementary school age?
100%.
The more parental input, regardless of the area, tend to have better schools.
Saratoga to Prospect is about a $300,000 to $400,000 difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Also, you're paying for the school.
Well, it's so funny. When Dee and I first moved into Los Gatos, we had that debate: do we go to private school or public school or whatever it was? And it's like, listen, we're paying for those public schools by moving here, right? So I just think all parents need to realize how their kids learn and figure out what's the right fit. I personally like schools that are kind of more rounded, where it's not just one
academic
or the other.
Focus.
Yeah, where they have something for everybody.
So, what is your perspective, the three of you, on buying a home in a great neighborhood like Willow Glen, an area that Mark has always talked about, kind of being like an outlier area?
Be careful! I don't want any phone calls now.
But
Come
for
on.
you don't really you don't not understand.
I
it,
understand.
but they have bad schools and the prices are high. What is your take on something like that?
I think it goes back to look. I mean, you just said it. There's a lot of factors into a school scoring system, not just academic. So it could be an academically high scoring school, but that blended number is lower because they don't have diversity or they don't have an affordable housing component. So it's more than just a number, right? And so consumers need real estate agents that can educate them on that, so they don't discard an entire area because the school's a
So are you buying a $4 million house with Del Mar as the zoning?
Well, I mean, it depends.
You personally?
Me, no.
Why?
No, but that's not it. It's not just school driven, right? I mean, I'm always going to be looking at resale value, right? Because the higher the rating of the school, we know the higher the value of the homes, right? But that's not all what a community is about.
Yeah, it's lifestyle.
One of the reasons why I have chosen Los Gatos as my community where I raise my kids and live is I love the community aspect of Los Gatos. We have the parks. We're at the foothills going over to the hill or over to the Santa Cruz. We've got a really strong community base downtown and beyond, right? Where listen, I've sold a lot of homes in Willow Glen. I got nothing against Willow Glen. It's really cool. I know if somebody wants Willow Glen, they love the California cottage charm, right? The old school architecture and so forth. And they got a beautiful downtown. But I would hesitate. I don't want any phones to ring here at all. I would put Los Gatos community themed as a town a little bit above Willow Glen. I don't know. I haven't lived in Willow Glen, but I think Willow Glen is more centered around the downtown area, and I don't sense that it has the community that it like Los Gatos does.
I agree.
Also, one thing that they've changed is academic progress rating, right? So a lot of the schools that went down, because I remember some of the schools I was tracking the exact breakdowns. Like Leland had a great academic progress rating that went down to a 1 out of 10. That means the way the parents feel about their school, about their kids at the school changed significantly.
Yeah, I think that's a big rating right there. I mean, that's something to look at, right? Listen, I think every time, I think everybody at this table has sold a property in every single community within the Bay Area, pretty much, right? And every community has its pluses and minuses. And what might work for one buyer won't work for the other buyer, right? So it's really working with an experienced agent that can educate you of all those things, the pluses and minuses for every community, and then they can figure out what's the best community for them.
I had a question. So Leland going from, let's say, an 8 or a 9 to a 6, how do you see that affecting property values in the coming months or
Well, I think it's fair to say that the value is determined based on one website, which is greatschools.org
Right.
or .com.
Yep.
So someone that's totally coming from up the peninsula, that's working with an agent that's from the peninsula, that doesn't know the difference between Pioneer and Leland, I think it affects them pretty drastically.
Right.
Yeah, I still think though that Leland will hold the value historically.
Once you dive in and you go to the parent forums and things like you were talking about, then you're going to be like, oh.
So for some of our listeners, where is Leland at?
Leland is in, I would say, deeper Almaden.
Okay.
South Almaden Valley.
Yeah.
95120.
Yep.
Yep.
95120. And then if you were to go further north, you would go either be in
So
Lee,
that's
Branham, or Pioneer.
That's a really great question. Has the rating systems changed, or have the schools changed, or a combination of both?
I believe
Combination
the
of
rating
both.
system has.
I think so too. I think the ratings might have had some more
So
analytics.
here's
in there.
what it'll be a challenge. People looking for all schools over 7s or 8s will be eliminated, or they will eliminate that
If you
area.
put that into your search criteria, it
Exactly.
will no longer
Yeah.
pop up.
Right.
Yeah. Or even like a not experienced buyer who's
Well, that's to the point you're dealing with an out of area agent or something.
Exactly.
They don't have that guy.
Because as the #1 agent over by Clover Creek, Mr. Mark,
Yeah.
you are constantly dealing with the fact that people don't have 95120 flagged on their search for
Los Gatos
Los
schools.
Gatos schools.
Correct. And it's called Brookside, not Clover Creek, but
But we sold the last one on Clover Creek.
correct. You're
Lavender Creek.
Lavender Creek, but get your street. It's okay. Brookside, yes. In San Jose with Los Gatos schools, right?
And you always have to make sure that your email blasts go out to the agents
In Los Gatos.
In Los
100%.
Gatos, because
Right.
they don't know. I mean,
Well, and again, I think what all of this circles back to is that who you work with matters. It really does, right? You better have an agent who's experienced, who can educate you, again, of all these different communities. And it is interesting with this whole thing that you brought up, right? It was perceived that maybe our team was diminishing a location because of a school or something. And that had nothing to do with it. That did not happen. And as I said earlier, every community has awesome things about it, but it might not be the right.
We just needed a different school. We weren't saying that Pioneer was better or worse.
Right,
Yeah, we
right.
just-
Because I can go through every single thing. You can even go to Alviso. You can go to Milpitas. You can go to Gilroy, Morgan Hill, all Santa Teresa. All these places, they've all got great things about them, right? And they're all up and coming as well too. I mean, there's a huge. I mean, look at Morgan Hill. Honestly, Morgan Hill 20 years ago didn't have a really great downtown area, and you look at it now. That place is like Santana Row. I mean, it's
it's
really
super
up and
new.
coming.
Buys one property and
I'll
take it
Santana
easy,
Row.
Santana Row.
All right, Jeet, I know you had some stuff you wanted to share
Let's do
today,
it.
so why don't you jump into
So
that?
I just wanted to kind of give a public service announcement for first-time home buyers.
Okay.
Right? We all have quite a few of those,
Yes.
and it's been a challenge getting setting expectations because inventory levels are very low. People don't have a lot to choose from, and prices may go pretty high once the rates come down. So right now is a good time to lock in that price and refinance later. So, the advice would be don't look for a perfect home, right? Get something that you can move into for the next 5 to 10 years, and build equity. As prices appreciate, you'll be in a great position for your next home, right? If you can sacrifice on that school district or a townhome instead of a single family, make that sacrifice.
Just get into the game.
Exactly. Get into the game as early as possible,
Right.
and then ride the wave, and then upgrade to that.
What I
ideal
always
home.
tell everybody is make your top 10 list, right? Your top 10 priorities of a house that you really want, and know that I don't care how much money you have, you're never going to hit all those 10. If you can get 6 or 7 of them, be happy with it. Maybe now in today's market it's only 5, but get into that game, to your point, right? Start
Exactly.
building that equity.
Yeah, well, there's 690 homes for sale. How picky can you be, right? At the end of the day, and especially if you're that entry level. If you're 1.5 or below,
Right.
Yeah.
somewhere in Santa Clara County, I mean, you can't afford to be that picky. Unfortunately, it's just a reality of where we live.
And as we've said time and time again, today is not the great deal. It'll be a great deal 5 to 7 years from now, but don't
sell
think
it,
you're going to
yeah.
get a great deal in any market when it's today's market.
It's always a deal in the making, right?
Yeah,
the
I love
longer
that.
you own
Absolutely.
it, the better the deal
100%.
gets. Right?
That's a great PSA.
I love that.
The more you know.
The more you know.
The more you know with Jeet.
Who you work with matters.
Well, I'm not sure if you've seen any of the articles coming out recently. Were you done, by the way?
Yeah.
About the transition from larger properties, like commercial properties, being changed from office zoning to residential.
Yep, yep, of
San
course.
Jose downtown has been going through that.
Right.
Something we don't talk too much about is commercial real estate, and office space is getting hit pretty hard right
Oh,
now.
yes, it is.
And retail.
Large office.
Yeah, and especially in California, right?
Yes.
Like you
Well, and
get issued a
commercial
ticket for stealing
commercial
$900
across
worth of products.
Yeah, right. Commercial across the nation, where we've talked about this, where these owners they don't do 30-year AM loans. I mean, they might do a 30-year AM, but it's not fixed for 30 years.
No one knows what 30 AM
right.
means.
Amortized. So the payments amortize over 30 years. So you can get a commercial loan amortized over 30 years, but it's going to be called in 5 to 7 years, generally speaking. So you've got a lot of these owners that are sitting on these 3.5% commercial loans that are now going to be coming due, and those are going to be going up to 7%. And that's going to be a huge impact.
And I think the biggest difference is commercial versus residential, that if the numbers don't make sense in commercial, you just pretty much walk away.
Well, that's if you have a non-recourse loan. I mean, if you I will say this, though, and I think it's kind of going in the direction that you're wanting to take this conversation, that I think there's a huge opportunity to identify cities that are not meeting the requirement for their federal housing needs, right? Because those cities will be much more favorable for rezoning of commercial properties, right? So, you get a commercial owner who's a little challenged with having a refi and they're looking to sell. Look at all aspects of that property, what you can do for it.
What do you see the most common zoning changes being from to residential? So like rezoning, for example, agriculture to residential, virtually impossible.
No, not necessarily.
But it's hard.
Well, it's harder if you fall under the Williamson Act, right? But under SB 330 right now, there's a property I happen to know of here in Saratoga. It's about a 10-acre parcel. It's always been used for agriculture, but it can fall under SB 330 because it doesn't have agricultural land surrounding it. So that's where the problem would be, is if you're like Watsonville, where you got ag land all over the place, it would be hard to take one patch of ag land in the middle of all of them and switch it to residential.
Well, that's what I was talking about.
Right?
Like Coyote Creek
Correct.
Valley.
It becomes more challenging. But I will say the cities and towns are going to have to be very creative on how they're going to become within the guidelines of the federal housing. I mean, I think, David, you mentioned before 8,000 homes that Los Gatos has to add. Is that what it was?
Yeah, roughly, yeah.
Yeah, roughly 8,000 homes in like 8 years, or?
Yeah, it's within the next 9 years, 9 to 10 years.
Where?
Where are you going to put
it? We're going to go vertical? I mean, we better be going up 20 stories on these things.
Well, and to your point, Aaron, if you want to look in terms of San Jose, you can look at the San Jose 2040 plan, and they actually show you the map of where they want to convert current commercial space into residential. So think about Stevens Creek Corridor, Bascom, parts of San Carlos. So all of those places that have that old kind of retail stuff, car dealerships, things like that, those are all prime for rezoning.
Well, it was supposed to be all bought by Google, which doesn't seem like that's...
Yeah,
they bought it. I mean, not just...
they're reevaluating it right now, right?
But we know that they will build it out or sell it off and it'll get built out, right? So it's just a matter of time.
So by 2040, is BART going to go all the way around?
No chance.
Isn't Elon going to have his loops,
what's going to happen?
Hyperloop.
Hyperloop.
We are in 2023 and we don't have one train that goes all the way around
crazy?
the bay.
So what do we have? VTA or no? What's it? The blue line down here, or VTA? Right?
You have Caltrain, you have BART, you have VTA.
Right.
But Caltrain only goes up.
BART goes east.
But no one starts in San Jose. You cannot start in San Jose and get to Oakland.
Well, and for them to connect it from Berryessa to downtown, they have to go underground.
Right.
So
Aaron, when was the last time you rode public transportation?
Probably 13.
Yeah, we have
not 2013 when I was 13.
Yeah, we have one of the worst public transportation systems.
Absolutely.
If you look at how to get to the airport from your house without using like an Uber or getting dropped off, Jacob and I actually think we talked about this.
Well,
you have to walk to the bus stop.
Right.
Then you have to take the bus to the VTA light rail, then get back off the light rail and go on a bus.
Yeah.
There's one bus stop.
It's like if you ever want to go to an A's game, you got to drive to Fremont and hit BART in Fremont, right? And then go from there. I mean,
it's interesting because living in London, you can get from any place to any place within. You have frequency of 5 to 10 minutes of buses and trains, and you can literally get from any place from A to B with a train and a bus. And over here, when I just moved,
You should say when I lived over here.
Governor.
On this side of the pond.
That's,
It's the hop, skip, and a jump.
and over here, I was trying to go to the gym, which is only a 10-minute drive. It was showing me an hour 30 minutes with a
For
bus
public.
and a train.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it was
Yeah.
Makes
incredible.
no sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why they say Californians don't like public transportation. Well, we don't have any. I mean,
Yeah.
give it to us. And then, well, I won't get into the whole BART issues, but
Well, and then how long were they trying to do like a bullet train from the Bay Area to LA?
and how much money they
started
spent
it.
on that?
Yeah, they started
Right?
it. and-
How many billions of
There's a
dollars?
few railroad tracks.
Yeah. About 10 of them.
Yeah. Did you guys see that there was a city in Solano County, or land in Solano County, bought for about $1 billion
Yeah.
around the airport?
Yes, from a bunch of VC Silicon Valley
and
buyers.
there's rumors that they want to make their own city.
Yes,
gonna
they
create
would
their
like,
own
it came
city.
out. They would like to build their own city. And do you know the issue with it?
No.
PG&E cannot support another city.
Oh, well, they might have thought about that before putting their money down. It's right outside of Travis Air Force Base, right?
Yes, and it
Yeah.
put the government on a high alert.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just thought it was super ironic because for every progression that people want to take in adding more housing and doing all that, we don't even have the infrastructure set up.
Well, but then again, I mean, they're all going solar anyways, right? I mean, and that's a challenge. I think any new construction has to be electric.
So they want to go solar, but they're saying that the solar panels reflect too much, so the pilots can't land at the Air Force Base.
Oh,
Somebody might have thought about that before they.
yeah.
I'd like to.
I'm assuming escrow hasn't closed.
I thought it did.
That's
but
an interesting one. The solar
I had
panels
never heard that.
reflect
So
too
now they
much
have to
sun.
try to find solar panels that don't
Interesting.
reflect so much.
Yeah.
But you bring up an interesting point in that because there is such a big push for, no more gas in new construction. It's
Right.
all electric, and they want to go electric cars. We don't have the infrastructure to support it.
So, I don't know if you guys. I know this isn't getting political, but it's just factual. Tucker Carlson and Trump did the debate. Trump didn't go to the Republican debate. And what Donald Trump said, because they're talking about who's going to potentially run for the Democratic side, and Gavin Newsom was thrown out there. And what Trump said was that it's really unfortunate because the grid has not been upgraded. California has actually the worst grid out of all of the states in the nation.
Yeah.
And it's just so far antiquated that they don't really know how to fix it at this point.
Yeah, there was just a story in the news today about how California is wanting to shut down their nuclear power plants. And they were saying you might want to hesitate on that because you're going to be shutting off some of your resources before you're ready.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the infrastructure.
So
in
whether
place.
you're green, blue, or purple, like something's
Hey,
got to
listen,
give if we want to keep
I
growing
mean,
housing.
I invested in a generator, during COVID, and our power just went out 2 days ago. It was gone for like
for what
24, almost
reason?
24 hours. The transformer was
You
weird.
talk to people in other states and you're like, yeah, they turned the power off because it got really hot.
Yeah, right. The winds were too high.
They're just so puzzled. They're like, what?
California. That's why we pay to live in this wonderful state.
Yeah. So it's unfortunate, but I hope that something does get done.
Yep. All right.
Short,
what else?
Short and
We're
sweet
good.
today,
There you
I
go,
think.
man.
Right?
I still just can't believe our inventory levels. There is no increase whatsoever. I mean, you said 8%, but again, 500 at 8%, you had 35 homes. That could be a difference in a day or two, right?
Yeah.
What's gonna make this change, guys? Where do you see things are? I mean, Aaron, you're usually the more optimistic individual when we start talking about these numbers.
He wants to see 1,600 homes on the market.
What's going to have to change for us to hit 1,600 by January?
No.
Or first quarter? Or second quarter next year?
I just never thought interest rates would be this high this quickly. I mean,
Are they going to come down?
but if they
Are we
don't
gonna
come down,
first?
it doesn't allow. It's like they have to open the gates one more time to allow everyone out that wants to move up.
Mortgage Bankers Association came out with a survey last week on interest rate projections, and I believe they said by the end of 2024 they are estimating rates to be back down to the mid fives.
Okay.
But that's the end of next year. So
And right
if
now
that's
we're in the low sevens.
6.5 to 7, and so if that's the case, our inventory levels, this whole weekly marketing update I give on the podcast,
right.
it's going to be the same thing week after week.
It's
after.
interesting, though, because Michael Hope today was speaking at our sales meeting for our RE Mortgage Advisors that he's doing rates right now sub 6, right, on owner-occupied, not on investment properties. So, again, I
Sub
think if
6 meaning you're getting high five. rate.
yeah,
high fives,
5.75
but that's
or
with
so.
the buy with points.
Yeah, you're
buy
buying down the points, and so there are ways to make it reasonable. But as Jeet said, I mean that's a temporary situation, right? So
If your foot isn't already in the door and you're not you don't already own something, it's very hard to play catch up right now to get in.
So I know.
Go ahead,
I have
bring
a
it
feeling what your answer was going to be here. Would you rent or buy right now?
I'd rent.
Yeah, because you already do. Okay.
Because I've already bought and sold more than 3 houses.
So you're done now? Is that it?
No, when the opportunity's there, I jump. When the opportunity's not there, we don't jump. Like, for instance, I'm writing on a house in Almaden today.
Good for you.
You know why? Because it's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Guess what? There's probably going to be so much equity in the house by the time I close on it and fix it up a little bit that I'm going to end up selling it again.
There you go.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe next time we'll talk about rent and the rate of rental increases in our marketplace, because it's still, from an affordability standpoint, it'll cost you half as much to rent as it was to buy. So we still have a long way to go before we hit that ceiling where rent and mortgage are.
Well, and not to drag this out,
unequal.
we'll save this for next time. But again, the reason why you're buying over renting is you got the equity factor that you're increasing in your So,
but what does that do if you're not selling it?
well,
The equity, in your opinion.
it just builds until
it just
you sell
builds.
it.
It's
I know.
it's my retirement account. I mean,
But-
it's equity. It's my wealth I'm building.
It's just so weird.
Well, it's like your stock account. I mean, nobody keeps. Well, maybe you do. I was gonna say nobody just holds on to cash.
Why?
You have it in.
It's so cool.
I don't know.
It's cool to look at your bank account.
Your buddy Grant Cardone says like cash is worthless, right? It's all about debt.
There you go.
It's all-
10x.
It's all about
10x.
debt. So, all right. Well, we'll
right,
save
on
that
that
for
note.
next time. Hey,
There you go.
Ben.
Stay tuned.
Shout out to Ben, who was
right
going to
here.
be.
Ben,
Oh, there he is. Come on in and say
cut it
hi.
out,
man.
cut it out.
We got our mustache minute in here. There you go. Mustache second. All right, guys.
See you next time.